Que hoy no vamos a presentar ningún bill ahí a las 2, ¿verdad? Solamente talking points.
Bueno, es una audiencia.
Claro, pero no hay ningún bill. El Kids Act no lo vamos a presentar hoy.
No, es nada más una
To
persona.
get input so they can write the bill.
I went to this weekend and I fell off the tube and I broke my knee. I'll show you in a I think we've been in touch in the past, so probably by email. Great, bye. Actually, okay, you want to get started? That should be way too tall.
Congresswoman Aller. You got a phone? Did you pick up that room? Those are the numbers. Right? Oh, really?
Good afternoon, everyone. How you all doing?
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm Cristina Jimenez, Managing Director of the United We Dream Network. United We Dream is the largest immigrant youth-led network in the country with 51 affiliates in 25 states. And today we're standing here together not only with United We Dream, but with many of our allies who will be speaking with us today as well, to send a strong message in response to the Republican Party and some of them talking about introducing a so-called KIDS Act. So we're here standing representing Dreamers across the country. United We Dream convened our National Congress last year in 2012, where 600 leaders from all across the country came to Kansas City, Missouri, and made a strategic choice about the commitment of immigrant youth in the fight for immigration reform. And we decided unanimously, all of our 51 affiliates, that we were committing ourselves to fight for all undocumented people in the United States. Our parents, our siblings, our uncles, our sisters, our brothers. And that we're here in this fight because of our parents and because of what we've learned and their sacrifice. So as we hear and we move into the House of Representatives in this fight for immigration reform, and we're hearing from the Republican Party that they want to move forward a so-called KIDS Act that would only provide a pathway to citizenship or legalizations for young people, but not for our parents. We're here to say, from a moral standpoint, how could we, as young people, who have seen our parents work hard, sacrifice it all, in our country, but also in this country, and have left everything behind to come here seeking a better life, how could we leave them behind? How could we say, yes, we want a pathway to citizenship for us because Republicans and the American public feels that they sympathize with our story? How could we say yes to that and then say deport our parents? That is not acceptable for our movement and for immigrant youth all across the country. So we stand here today not only as Dreamers, but with other allies in the immigrant rights movement and allies from other movements as well, who stand here with us to say that this is no way to go and no way to move forward. So today we have a lineup of speakers representing different sectors from our movement. And I will be calling, and I know that many of the Congress members are also here, and they will be coming in and out, so I'll be calling them up to the podium. So we'll have first joining us representing the civil rights community, Wade Henderson from Leadership Conference on Civil Rights. Wade?
Oh. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for the excellent introduction. I'm Wade Henderson. I'm president of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, a coalition of more than 200 national organizations working to build an America that's as good as its ideals. This afternoon's hearing on Dreamers certainly represents a change from the unhelpful and often ugly tone on immigration reform that has dominated the House Judiciary Committee in the past several months and years. That change is certainly not lost on us. But one relatively friendly hearing doesn't end the plight of Dreamers, and it certainly doesn't address the enormous problems that lie at the heart of our nation's immigration system. If the House is serious about reforming our nation's immigration system, we believe that a clear, fair, and workable path to citizenship must be the centerpiece of its efforts. The principle behind earned citizenship is the same principle that has guided every civil and human rights movement throughout our nation's history. And that is that people who work hard to make our country a better place and who are willing to play by the rules deserve to be treated fairly and deserve to have an equal chance to share in the American dream. The fear of deportation among long-term residents who have already contributed meaningfully to our economy and who want nothing more than to swear allegiance to our values has a toxic effect on the rights of us all. When immigrants fail to report victimization and violence because they fear deportation, crime flourishes and we are all harmed. When immigrants are afraid to seek care for illnesses that are otherwise readily treatable, they pay dearly with their health and well-being, and we all pay more for health care. And when immigrants are afraid to report abuses in the workplace because they are already vulnerable, the interests of all workers are undermined. Lastly, we know all too well that when our legal system tolerates the creation of a modern-day caste system, democracy itself is compromised. For these reasons, it's hard for us to get very excited about today's hearing. It's a nice gesture, but gestures are not enough. The Leadership Conference will continue to insist on real reform of our entire immigration system, reform that upholds American values that for decades we have worked so hard to fulfill. Thanks very much, Christina.
Now we will have Congressman Joe Garcia joining us.
Thank you. Look, obviously I sit on the Judiciary Committee and I'm watching this debate. I've had the great displeasure of watching how we framed the debate in the House. I think while the Senate didn't have a perfect bill, it's a wonderful start. And clearly we're not headed in the right direction when we're thinking about something less than full pathway forward for all those who come to our country, and trying to hold out the dreamers and the great needs that you represent, because clearly if we were able to penetrate the American conscience, it was by the work of the dreamers and the impact they had. Something that began in my district at Miami-Dade College, where the first dreamers began this debate and where we as a country started to take notice. But I also want to refer to one of the first dreamers. He was born in a small island in Nevis, and his name was Alexander Hamilton. Came to this country at 14 years of age. And when the fathers got together to create what was a citizen, he made sure that he could run for president, because they, the founders, included themselves as full Americans. And these young men and women behind me are American in everything, but in the exception of the letter of law, and we have to fix that. They committed no crime. They are part of our future. They are committed to that future, and it is up to us to fix this debate. We have a great opportunity to do what's right. We have a great opportunity to step forward, not only for them, but for all Americans, because fixing our immigration system is a central element to our country, and to make sure that it works. So I, along with several of my colleagues that sit in this committee, will continue to fight for this. But it's not the Democratic thing to do. It's not the left-wing thing to do. It's not the right-wing thing to do. It is the right thing to do. And we need to get this done. So thank you for your work. Thank you for inviting me here. And we look forward to continuing the fight and to following all of you in this great struggle.
Thank you, Congressman Garcia. Now we will have Haseen Ma from the Asian American Justice Center.
I'm Jacinta Ma. I'm the Deputy Director of Asian Americans Advancing Justice. We are a national organization that works to advance the civil and human rights of Asian Americans to promote a fair and equitable society for all. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to discuss comprehensive immigration reform today, because it's of paramount importance to us, particularly because it impacts immigrant women and families. The Asian American community stands united with those here today and all other communities across the country to demand that the House of Representatives do the right thing and move fair, compassionate, and sensible immigration reform closer to the finish line. We appreciate that the House of Representatives is working on a path to citizenship for Dreamers, because 1 in 10 Dreamers is Asian American. Dreamers have been at the forefront of comprehensive immigration reform, and our Advancing Justice affiliates have helped Dreamers access their legal options to stay in the U.S. and have worked closely with them to support their efforts to achieve immigration reform. The Dreamers have already contributed to our society, and they have so much more to offer. They should not need to wait any longer for a path to citizenship. But as much as we want that, we want a path for citizenship, not just for the Dreamers, but for all 11 million undocumented immigrants. We will not accept proposals that create a permanent second class of people. This is just not what America is about. And currently there are over 1 million undocumented Asian Americans living in the shadows. And more than 1.8 million of our loved ones are waiting years, and frequently decades, to be reunited with families. Our community has spoken loud and clear that we want common sense immigration reform, and we want it now. We need a comprehensive solution. And because our community is more than 2/3 foreign-born, we know firsthand that this is a complex system that needs to be fixed in a holistic way. And let me be absolutely clear. We reject piecemeal proposals aimed at dividing our movement and that address only one or two parts of our complex immigration system. That type of reform is not acceptable. Asian Americans and others in our movement will continue to rally. We will continue to meet with members of Congress. And we will do all that we can to advocate for a common sense solution that reunites millions of families waiting in the backlog and that brings immigrants already in the U.S. out of the shadows. Immigration reform has come too far to be stopped now. The Senate has done its part. The President is waiting for a comprehensive bill to reach his desk. It's now up to our House leaders and members to do their part. Today, we call on House members to work with us now toward sensible, compassionate reform that's good for all Americans. Piecemeal immigration legislation is like taking only one dose of antibiotics. It won't fix the problem. Anything less than a full solution to fix the broken immigration system is just irresponsible. The time is now for comprehensive immigration reform. Thank you for including us today.
Now we'll have Congresswoman Olga Alar joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us today. Let me begin by saying a special word of thanks to Cristina Jimenez and United We Dream for all that you are doing in our fight to pass comprehensive immigration reform legislation. The day that President Obama signs CIR into law will be in large part due to the tireless efforts and steadfast commitment of countless of young people who are here today and who are known as the Dreamers. So I thank you for everything that you are doing. As Americans, we have always valued family and appreciated the essential role played by parents in raising their children. This is no less true for the parents of the Dreamers. It is they who have nurtured and guided their children. It is they who have taught them their values, inspired them to work hard to reach their goals and to give back to their community. And it is they who have instilled in them a strong sense of patriotism and love of country. Our message today is simple. As is true for all children, separating the Dreamers from their parents is unconscionable. It is contrary to our American values, our beliefs in the integrity of family, and to our inherent responsibility to protect our children and act in their best interests. In addition to the pain our broken immigration system causes our Dreamers, it is also tragic consequences for the more than 5,000 U.S. citizen children who have already been traumatically taken away from their parents and sent to live with strangers in foster care. This tragedy must be stopped. The fear of losing one's parents was highlighted for me last December when a young girl named Ebony wrote to my office asking for my help to end the deportation of parents. She said that every day she worried and lived in fear of being separated from her undocumented mother. She wrote, "Without my mom, I'd be the saddest girl on earth." Children like Ebony are depending on us to do the right thing and pass comprehensive immigration reform legislation, and we must not let them down. In spite of the human tragedy, unfortunately, that is caused by our broken immigration system and the benefits to our country in passing comprehensive immigration reform legislation, House Republicans seem intent on pursuing a piecemeal approach to reform that would legalize the status of young undocumented immigrants, but leave their parents vulnerable to deportation. That's why United We Dream, America's Voice, the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, and members of CBO and also the Progressive Caucus and many of my colleagues throughout Congress are fighting every single day as allies with us in demanding fair and just comprehensive immigration reform legislation. Instead of separating parents from their children, let's bring the dreamers and their parents out of the shadows. Let us empower them to pursue the American dream and to reach their full potential. And as a result, we will all fully benefit from their talents and contributions to our economy and to our nation as a whole. Thank you again to United We Dream and the Dreamers for all that you are doing to make the common sense goal of CIR a reality. Your courage, your determination, and your patriotism are an inspiration to all of us, and I thank you all for that.
Now we have Congresswoman Napolitano joining us.
Welcome. Thank you very much. I don't have a better speech, but in listening to my colleagues, it brings forth an issue that sometimes we tend to forget. And I would dare you, or not dare you, I would ask you to ask any of these children the question to you. What would you do if your parents were separated and deported? What would you feel? What kind of mental health status would you have? What kind of person could you be, not knowing that going home, your parents may not be there? This is something that we talk about generally about other areas, but we don't talk about the status of our youngsters and their families and how they're living in fear constantly because of what is being not done for them, and that's doing the comprehensive immigration reform. Now, it's a piecemeal approach that is being taken. That's not going to be enough. We need an immigration reform that is going to take care of the issues that we've been dealing with for over a decade or more. And part of it is these youngsters, what was going to happen when they become citizens, when they begin to provide us with the support we need in the economy and our Social Security funds in the future. This is the future of our economy that we're talking about. We have, 12 million people in the United States, maybe more, and it isn't just from the south of the border. You're talking worldwide immigrants. As you know, it isn't just one area that we are dealing with. Tri-Caucus, Black, Asian, and Hispanic have joined forces because we all have the same inherent values, family values, that we support. We just feel that this is something we need to ensure that we continue to fight for. And these youngsters are making it clear to us that it is something they need. They need their parents to be along with them to provide a future for them and for our country. So I thank you very much, and again to all our youngsters throughout the United States, have hope, have charity, but let's all work together and get it done. Thank you so very much. God bless all of you.
Now I'd like to have Congresswoman Shayla Jackson joining us.
I am honored to be here, and I thank all of you. I will soon join my friends in the Judiciary Committee hearing, and I cannot thank all of the icons that are standing here who age backwards. By all of you being here, you have now become younger. I hope we know that. I thank my colleagues, my friends from Texas and California, Florida. I know that we come from any faith. We're now celebrating Ramadan. But in the Christian faith, there are two parables that I'd just like to be able to briefly acknowledge. One was the book of Ruth, where a young woman said to someone who had become like a mother to her, "Entreat me not to leave you." And another, of course, is a phrase that says, "Honor thy mother and thy father." I want to stand with young people who want to honor your mother and your father, who want to honor your family, your siblings, brothers and sisters, who recognize that in this nation of laws, founded on the opportunity for freedom of religion, we promote family values. We want you to stay together. And yet we come today in a hearing that I'll be going to in a few minutes, that just like Brother Henderson, I do want to acknowledge the good intention. But I am hurt by the fact that all of the clamoring that we have heard in the last couple of weeks is that we're on a stall. And all I can feel is the pain of those students who have come into my office. One was trying to go to Pace University and cannot get status in order to go to that university. One, an Asian student, was on the precipice of losing everything that he had because he could not get an answer from the government, who was trying to process this deferred action. But yet, just a few weeks ago, our Republican majority voted to defund the funding that would be used to be able to process these students. So I don't understand the conflict, the conflictedness, that if we can move forward in representation that there's coming to be a KIDS Act, can we not move forward on comprehensive immigration reform so that these young people can honor their family values, that these young people can respect and love their siblings, that these young people cannot be told to leave your home and your family? So I come today to stand bonded with all of you and to recognize that even though our voice is redundant, even though you've heard us over and over for more than a decade, maybe 20 years, comprehensive immigration reform, this is the moment. This is the time, and we should never stray. I'm going to invite, or I am inviting, all of you to be in Houston on the 29th. We'll be holding a hearing there. We'll be holding a mass presence on the steps of City Hall. I want all the Dreamers to come. And I ask my colleagues across the nation to hold these kinds of formats. I'll be looking forward to the Texas delegation to be there, including my colleague, Mark Veazey. We are coming out of our districts to focus in a city that is the fourth largest city in the nation, to be able to stand up and tell the world, not just America, that we stand with the Dreamers, we're linked in arms, and we believe that they are the most respectful young people that we've seen, and this is their time. And they're telling us no to separation, no to dishonor. For me, I stand with them in honor and unity and friendship, fighting for and accomplishing comprehensive immigration reform.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to address you today on a very important topic. That's comprehensive immigration reform. And I'll tell you, I was sworn into office in January. And in my first several months in office, I've been to about 400 events or so in my district. And whether it's a Congress on the corner, whether I'm visiting a small business, or whether it's an event that is specifically curtailed to talk about immigration, like when I had Congressman Castro up in Fort Worth a couple of weeks ago, when I had Congressman Gutierrez in Dallas. The one common denominator in all of these events is that families want to be together. Whether it is a family from Mexico or Honduras, whether or not when Congresswoman Frederica Wilson had us in Miami, and we met families from Haiti that had tears in their eyes, just like the families in the district that I represent, whether it's families of those who are gay and lesbian. People want to be reunited with their families. People don't want to have to deal with the anxiety of knowing that they are separated from their loved ones, and oftentimes the loved one, in the case of Dreamers, maybe a country where they were born, but they really don't know how that country works and operates anymore because, as it was stated earlier, they really are Americans. and have been contributing to society, both in terms of education, in the workforce, and the time really to act is now. When you look at the strong coalition that we built in the House with Congressional Black Caucus members, Congressional Hispanic Caucus members, Asian members, our gay and lesbian members of the Democratic Caucus, it's now time for our brothers and sisters on the Republican side of the aisle. Our brothers and sisters on the Republican side of the aisle that care about families, that need to go to their district and look into the eyes of these loved ones that are saying that they want to be reunited with their families, that they want this fear to end, that they want to be able to contribute to the Texas economy, to the American economy, and make this country a better place. And if they would go into their districts the way that many of us have, they would see that the time to act is now, that these families can wait no longer. And it's my hope that we really do, that we put our priorities in our country as it relates to our families first again, and that we act very quickly on this comprehensive immigration reform, because truly the time is now. Thank you.
Now I'd like to have one of our allies, Frank Sherry from America's Voice, join me.
I want to thank the members of Congress for your inspiring words, and my colleagues, but most of all, I want to thank the Dreamers. You know, I'm often described as a veteran of the immigration wars. I don't know why. But I have to say, in 2010, I was on the point of despair. I was thinking of leaving the field. I was thinking there's just no way that we could climb the mountain of immigration reform. And then I started hanging out with Dreamers, especially the folks from UWD, United We Dream. And I'll tell you, they have become the leaders of our movement, and it's because of them we are where we are today. So when they say in 2013, we're not going to accept crumbs off the table, and will you stand with us? This is the only place to be. Now look, I get the question all the time. I'm sure many of you are waiting to ask it. Weren't you for the DREAM Act in 2010? What's different now? Well, there's a world of difference now. That was then. That was when comprehensive immigration reform couldn't get through Congress. That was when the DREAM Act was blocked primarily by Republican opposition. And that was when the Dreamers led the way in the fight for deferred action in creating an opening, a political space for reform to be revisited. And now, after an election in which Republicans have been spanked by Latino, Asian, and immigrant voters, they're saying, we got to do something. That's what Speaker Bader said. Inaction is not an option. So let's do something. Well, here's my suggestion. The Senate passed an important but imperfect bill on a bipartisan basis that has an inclusive path to initial legal status and an eventual and achievable path to citizenship. Right now in the House of Representatives, there are more than 218 votes for a similar bill. So when I hear about Hastert rules and piecemeal and all this process mumbo-jumbo, it's like, give us a vote, dudes. It's like right now, the only thing standing between the people behind me and their families getting on a path to citizenship is a Republican procedural excuse when the votes exist right now to pass it. So yeah, 2010, we were fighting for what we could get. And in 2013, we're going to fight for what we can get and what we have earned and what the Dreamers have led us to earn. Look, the best you can say about the Republicans is like, well, are they doing something? Yeah. They're climbing out of the Stone Age into the Middle Age. And I want to be the first to congratulate them. But the challenge is to enter the 21st century and modernize our immigration system so we get one that's workable and humane, that reflects our values and serves our interests. You don't like the Senate bill? Come up with your own version. But it's got to be comprehensive, it's got to have an inclusive path to legal status, and it's got to have an achievable path to citizenship. And I stand with the Dreamers to make sure we don't stop until we get it. Thank you.
I'd like to call on Rosa Rosa Velasquez, who is a leader with United We Dream from our National Coordinating Committee, co-founder and executive director for Arkansas for a Dream. And Rosa will be testifying in today's hearing later today.
Hello everyone, my name is Rosa Velasquez and I am from Arkansas. I am a member of the National Coordinating Committee and I'm really excited to be testifying this afternoon. And I'm also undocumented. As a network, United We Dream is committed to winning citizenship for our families and communities, all 11 million undocumented Americans. We are also committed to creating an immigration system that treats all immigrants with dignity. We will not accept proposals that leave our parents behind or one that criminalizes our community. Parents like mine, who brought me here when I was 5 years old. My mother hopped on a plane and we landed in Dallas when I was 5 years old. She did what any mother at her age would courageously do, provide for her family. When facing uncertainty, my mother was a courageous person. And it's time for her to be put on a path to citizenship. Adopting an incomplete solution that provides a path to earn citizenship for me, but does nothing for my parents, is not acceptable. My mother speaks English. My mother pays taxes. My mother deserves to be put on that path. So when members of Congress tell me that I deserve an opportunity to earn citizenship and she does not, I tell you that if anyone deserves that path, it's my mother, Rosalinda. We both came here with the thought that hard work and perseverance open the opportunity to succeed. We have succeeded. Now I need to be a citizen. She and I are equal, and all of us are the American dream. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So the message is loud and clear. As we gear towards this hearing today, we're here to say we won't leave our parents behind. We oppose to anything that will say we accept the dreamers and we will deport your parents. And we're here to reaffirm our commitment as a unified immigrant youth movement and immigrant rights movement, along with our allies, that we're committed to fight for nothing less than a pathway to citizenship for all of our community who is here with no status. So I'd like to take now questions from members of the media. Yes.
I would like for the congressman to address my question, both in Spanish and English. Sure. If the Republicans bring a standalone KIDS Act to the floor, will Democrats vote against it?
Look, what's clear is that the debate here is beneath the dignity of the members of Congress. The justice of what we're looking at is something that polls clearly. It is why the Dreamers had such a powerful impact on the national debate. And it is clear. Let me say that in Spanish. Lo que es claro es que la justicia de esta causa se cae de la mano. Y es debajo de la dignidad, es por debajo de la dignidad de los miembros de nuestro Congreso, tratar de usar el sufrimiento de ellos y separarlos a ellos de su familia para esconderse detrás de estos muchachos. Aquí justicia no es solamente los Dreamers, que es obvio, y gracias a Dios el presidente actuó, pero es justicia para nuestra nación, encontrar un camino hacia adelante para ellos, para sus padres, y encontrar un sistema de migración que funcione.
So would Democrats vote no on the KIDS?
Me parece que lo que vamos a votar no es sobre una farsa que están tratando de perpetuar a la nación norteamericana. Si ellos tienen el coraje de decir no, tenemos que nosotros tener la visión de actuar en una manera consecuente y justa con la nación norteamericana y nuestra responsabilidad como congresistas.
And in English, please.
I don't think you can say all that in English, but let me just say, if the Dreamers have the courage to stand up against this farcical piece of legislation, which of course prevents their pathway forward, we have to have the courage and vision to do what's right for our nation and to make sure that we have a solution to the immigration problem, not a legislative gimmick, which the House Republicans seem so intent on perpetrating on this nation in this time, as well as in the rest of the legislative agenda.
Any more questions? Okay, so thank you so much for coming today, and please be in touch with Kristen for our communications person if you have any additional questions. Thank you.